Welcome to the Week in Italian Startup, where we discuss the latest highlights happening in the Italian tech and investment ecosystem. So before we start, Nick, you attended the World AI Festival in Cannes. So, it's a very big event. One of the one of their kinds in AI in Europe, if not probably the reference point in European AI so far, and with big speakers, big panelists, and you attended both events. So I was curious. It was just last week. It finishes just recently. And tomorrow you're going to talk to the Italian event in Milan in AI. So what is the feel? What did you breathe over there in Cannes? What's happening?
That's a huge hype around AI, that's for sure. Number one. We're not surprised, of course, by it, but because everybody is, trying to do something with AI. There were a lot of corporates showcasing the products and portfolios. There was a lot of startups. Quite a few players. I think I managed to attend a couple of sessions that were quite interesting, including one by Jan LeCun. I was really looking forward to that one. So it was quite interesting. Nice meetings as well. One of the main topics, I think, it was constantly being discussed, that being the event in Europe, it was about AI regulation. So I think underlying any conversation was, does or will the AI Act stifle innovation or support it in all aspects? So starting from startups, the impacts on open source, big corporates. So the discussions were at all levels around the AI Act and its implications locally and maybe globally, because in Europe we are world leaders in regulating things, but I mean, in this case, other big economies followed in some sense. So think about the executive order by Biden. China has a very light touch, but we'll see whether it will evolve in time. So this for sure. And there were a few conversations about the current state of the art in AI, so the current, basically, technological paradigm, transformers, so to keep it easy, and its limitations in getting to AGI, or however you want to call it. So these were the interesting conversation going on. Just the ones I managed to follow. There were a couple around AI and quantum, but I missed them. I'm curious about what was the conversation.
Any takeaway? What do you bring home from these discussions? Is there one thing in particular that you think it was like particularly insightful?
Well, other than this conversation about the technological limitations of the current state of the art, the main things that are currently on the frontier are multimodal AI, so it was quite interesting. So I liked the fact that there is a lot of thought going in that direction, and there's a lot of interest right now on everything going around AI security, first of all. So trying to adopt and use AI in a safe and secure both way. That's one of the main topics going around. So trying to keep the AI within your product under control. Not because it's going crazy, but because it's easy to go around limitations and use it in a rogue way. So those are the main. These were the main takeaways that I got from the main conversations.
All right, so let's see what's going to happen in Italy tomorrow and see what's boiling there.
I'll keep you updated.
All right, moving back to Italy, let's go into the biggest deal of last week, starting from Sealence, a startup developing sustainable and innovative solution for marine industry, raising 7.5 million in equity, debt, and grants. So this is interesting because the company is basically trying to make a new sort of electric engine for the marine application. So the marine industry has been, classically very much combustion engine oriented. Only lately, electrification took a little bit of a swing there. So there are a lot of people actually working there, and this is interesting because, first of all, of course, it's an Italian company. We have some firms in Italy that works in the marine industry that are big, so probably I would not be surprised if the next electric boat will come from one of these firms, for example. Well, there is a lot of talent for sure there, but on top of that, it's interesting because as a startup, they have this mix of equity, grant, and debt. It's a big capital intensive sort of development, so it's a little bit far from the classic digital space way of developing a business. Is more like capex oriented. So, but it's interesting to see these kind of deals still like moving, which is really in the cross of a more traditional hardware business crossed with the new trends of electrification. And probably they're going to throw some AI into that, I'm sure, somehow. So yeah, what is your take on this?
Well, look, in a sense, electrification in the naval industry is a bit of an underdog with respect to electrification, for example, in the airplane industry. That's an area that has been, that has raised a lot of capital, and it's quite there is some hype over there. But I agree with you. So we have a strong history in the naval sector, and we're a good candidate to come up with good designs for electric motors and electrification in that area. On top of that, I would say it is interesting that Sealence, as far as I can understand from the news, raised capital in many ways, but the equity part is mostly by private investors, not institutional investors. So they have like 175 different investors that in various rounds provided capital to the company. That's
I believe there was a crowdfunding a few years ago, if not last year actually, and they actually have been moving. So definitely a good step up to what's going to happen, and so very curious to see what will happen in the future on this specific technology. It might take longer, hardware as we know is like a little bit longer in terms of development, and so it's a good challenge, definitely a good challenge for the team. All right, moving on. Another deal which is very, very Italian as well, talking about fashion tech. So fashion tech has been like bubbling in Italy for long. A lot of people are working on it, being it, companies working on digital twins or the future of the experience in the fashion industry, and, experiencing like, different kind of product. So it's been interesting. It's been quite a ride, I think. And the big Italian fashion brands are actually very sensitive to this kind of this product. But what we've seen that you mentioned is Underscore District, which is a fashion brand accelerator, raising 4 million in a round led by Kairos Venture ESG1. So a couple of points here which are interesting is first of all, this to my knowledge, it's the second acceleration experiment in the fashion industry in Italy. I think there was some fashion tech accelerator, which is still in place. So this is like a new take on this. So it's nice to see that more and more people are working to sustain founders willing to work in the fashion industry. They basically provide founder with a lot of infrastructure from marketing to some advisory. So like an accelerator, but extremely vertical. And interesting that actually a big asset management company like Kairos actually is interested into this kind of deals. So Kairos Ventures, so Kairos is one, for the listener, is one of the big, I would say, multi-asset manager / wealth managers. So they really have a lot in their portfolio, from equity to bonds to different strategies, thematic, non-thematic, macro, etc. And one in particular is related to the venture investing. And they have two vehicles essentially. which are both AIFs, which is Italian Alternative Investment Funds, which are closed fund, only reserved for accredited investors. And in particular, Kairos Venture ESG1 is one that actually is covering a lot of ground. I think they are essentially targeting about 100 million as a target, and they really want to cover a lot: B2B, life science, space economy, green energy transition, and so on and so forth. So very, very ambitious project, and they already deployed capital, and this is their latest investment.
Yeah, I've got two additional comments on what you said. The first one about Kairos. That was the subject of an M&A activity itself last year, as it was sold by Julius Baer to Anima Holding, the entire company. And secondly, I think the underscore it flags itself as an accelerator, but it's not probably an accelerator in the sense that we are used to mean. It's from what I read, is more a company that acquires brands, taking the majority or something similar, and then supporting them in production, distribution, so giving them all that they need in order to grow. So it's more of a aggregator platform. I don't know, so something slightly different. So.
Yeah, I mean, interesting to see this experiment of actually not just working with the traditional accelerator playbook, but actually kind of mixing it up with maybe acquisition elements to it and acceleration elements, maybe incubation element. I mean, we'll see where these guys are going. I think right now they have only a few brands, like 4 or 5 maximum. Four, perfect.
Four,
and then I'm really looking forward to see what's going to happen then with the next ones. All right. One of the other big round of the week is Adax Bioscience, biotech startup raising 2.5 million from fintech partners. So first of all, very interesting because Addax, again, we're not, med tech or biotech investors, but it's
I
interesting.
think we should start to study medtech because we have one every week. We should try to, become more.
Very promising, very big rounds in Italy. I mean, we started the year with medtech and biotech. Yeah, maybe it's a sign. It's a sign. So essentially, from what I understand, Addax is really trying to provide a new product called GAF, which stands for glyoxal acid free, or glyoxal acid free actually, which is a patent-based compound, which essentially is used as an alternative to formalin. So formalin or like formaldehyde-based compounds are used in hospitals in general, in research center, to essentially analyze cells. And they're very widespread. So apparently there are like a lot of materials still used. And it's very toxic, and there's not big alternatives right there for this kind of analysis. So these guys are really targeting this very interesting challenge, and it's very interesting. I would then focus with their investors, which is fintech partners. So fintech partner essentially is a sub-holding of a bigger group, which is called SRI, which is an Anglo-Italian firm that focuses on M&A and corporate investment banking. So that's very interesting, as basically this company has been growing, has been like managing a lot of M&A deals across the years. They also have their vehicles to invest, and essentially fintech partner is their primary vehicle to invest in early stage companies. So don't be misled by the name. Actually, they're actually investing in more than fintech. They do, of course, like biotech and other kind of deals. So that's an interesting structure. Actually, it's a very articulated investor. They have a lot of elements, and I think it's one of the first time that we see these players in the market. Actually.
Yeah, I was reading from their news page. Last year, they invested in another company like bike company, something similar. So they're indeed active. So interesting to see whether they continue investing in more startups.
Awesome. So, finishing with an Italian investor actually trying to build something to invest abroad, Sella Venture Partner Fund of Funds 2. So, it's becoming more and more frequent to actually see strategies related to funds of funds. Maybe in the past year or 2 years, I feel we've seen like a few of them like trying to push this kind of investment strategy. So Sella, as we know, as we already like discussed in other episodes, is pretty much in the forefront of not only banking but also investing in tech companies. They have like a strong push to actually support the Italian ecosystem. So very, very interesting and big player. They launched Sella Venture Partner Funds of Funds 1 in 2020 with a target of 60 million, and that's what's kind of their first funds of funds strategy vehicle. So for the listener, essentially, they are aiming at investing not indirectly in startup, but in the best general partner, best fund managers that they can fund, and then basically they act as LPs in those funds. So it's a very common strategy in other equity vehicles like hedge funds and other financial entities. In venture is becoming really, really popular as well. And basically, yeah, the Funds of Fund 2 is the second one launched by Sella. The target is 100 million this time. And the idea is to invest into more or less 20 among the best funds, VC firms in Europe and in the US, which are active in not only in technology but also in life science. So it's a very broad scope. I don't think for a funds of funds strategy the allocation is massive. 100 million in a funds of fund is, it's pretty quick to actually deploy, I would say. But it's a very interesting way of thinking because it's really bringing Italian capital to the European and the US markets.
Yeah, I agree. We agree with you. It's a nice strategy because it allows also Italian investors who want to diversify to be exposed to international venture capital. I'm very sad, of course, because they're not investing in Italian VCs, but I mean, that's the market, maybe. I agree with you that it's probably not difficult in terms of complexity to deploy 100 million in 20 funds. There are two problems that you have. If you want to go for tier one, the first problem that you have is access. If you go to Sequoia, I think Sequoia opens up a fundraise, it's probably 2 times oversubscribed. So you need to qualify yourself in order to bring your allocation to Sequoia. So of course that's probably the most difficult part of the job. Mm-hmm. And second comes selection. I mean, if you have a set of opportunities, of course you need to be good at choosing the best ones. But I would argue that access in this market is the worst one. I mean, everybody will tell you that fundraising is very difficult in the current market, except for the top 10%.
That's a good point.
Managers are mostly always oversubscribed. So this is where the play is difficult.
That's an interesting insight and the signal to when the people will choose their VC firm to invest in. Things that happen every day, of course. Of course. So one great signal, and that I think Nick is completely spot on this, is this: like no matter where the market is, the top tier is still the top tier. It's a good point. It's definitely
Champions League is always the Champions League.
So. Very good point. Yeah, indeed. All right, Nick, thank you so much for joining this week, and I'll see you next week.
Ciao, Jack. Take care. Have a great week, and ciao, everybody. See you in a week.